Knife crime. It's rampant in this country, with over 50,000 offences in the past year. Since the horrendous, heartbreaking Southport attack, where 3 beautiful defenceless children were brutally killed, there's been a litany of other attacks. Only the other day, we had an apparent attempted murder on an 11-year-old tourist in Leicester Square, which, had it not been for the quick thinking and the actions of this hero, 29-year-old Abdullah, who works at the tea shop near where the attack took place, we would be adding this poor soul and potentially her mother to the death tally. On Thursday, a 53-year-old man was stabbed to death in Luton. And this week, the families of Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates have been fighting for justice after the killing of their family members. A review published by the Care Quality Commission, or CQC, on Tuesday regarding the case found a series of errors, omissions and misjudgments by mental health services. A litany of errors basically allowed a knowingly dangerous, mentally ill, sick man to roam the streets without any serious supervision. In a statement, the victims' families said that the organisations involved must bear a heavy burden of responsibility. Remember Notting Hill Carnival last year? Youths actually running through the streets in Sadiq Khan's London, brazenly carrying zombie knives and machetes. How can you even be allowed to buy these things, let alone get away with carrying them openly? It's frightening. Well, one answer to all of this, you'll need to take a seat for this one. Police are asking owners of zombie knives and machetes to hand them back in exchange and give them, the holder of such an object, the market value as compensation if they turn them in before the knives are banned on September the 24th this year. I mean, are you having a laugh? You heard it here, folks. Cash for knives. You couldn't make it up. The police are going to be giving out cash in exchange. Now, I get that maybe the idiots that purchase these things are potentially of low IQ. Perhaps some may be mentally challenged, and to carry one of these weapons, most are scared. But why pay for them to hand them back if caught after the ban, the punishment should be the deterrent? Surely an amnesty before the deadline with no compensation should suffice. After all, they're not being bought for fun. I mean, why would you want one? These knives are usually over 8 inches long, with serrated blades and often with some sort of arty graffiti emblazoned. The ban was put in place by the previous Conservative government, one of the very few things they actually completed. And if you own one of these knives, then you've got from the 26th of August until midnight on the 23rd of September to hand it in and claim your compo. But you'll need to provide a receipt. Without that, you'll only be entitled to a tenner. Honestly. Apparently handing out compensation is standard practice, but because the knives were legal before the ban. But in what clown world do we live in where knives like that were ever allowed? Right, 8 minutes after 4 o'clock. Before we get stuck into debates, here's what else is coming up today. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announced a new crackdown on extremism, pledging to tackle harmful ideologies and addressing gaps with current policies. But should misogyny be treated as terrorism? Then are Labour's policies a false economy, scrapping the winter fuel payment for pensioners, minimum service levels repealed for strikes, and private schools at risk of closure due to the VAT that will be charged next year? Has the Prime Minister got any answers? Then the former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick has laid out the 10 top principles for the future of the Conservatives. One of them should be get back to work, as he looks to crack down and get the party back on track, including functional NHS, seeing an end to mass migration and a total prison overhaul. All of that coming up. As ever, get your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Right, so joining me today, a former advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redrop, and also former Labour advisor, James Schneider. Smile, James, it might never happen. Oh, maybe it has. Right, I want to ask you your thoughts. OK, so knife crime. Handing back a knife. We're going to give you money if you give back a knife. I mean, this is the beginning of a policy. This is what they're going to do. I just beg his belief that that's actually a thing. It
does beg a belief. It sends out all the wrong signals. I know in the capital city here in London, knife amnesty bins were often around. You can find them around kind of churches and youth clubs, and that, to a degree, makes a little bit of sense. I get it, and you can just drop it off. But to actually incentivise people and kind of reward and I know they were technically legal when they got them, but to reward people who have purchased zombie knives, which is a very specific type, is complete insanity, sends out all the wrong signals. I have to say, I work quite closely with Sean Bailey, who was the Conservative candidate here in London, and, you know, he would have been on this issue a breath of fresh air for the City of London, and it could have been, you know, his absolute, like, zero tolerance kind of, you know, targeting would have been a breath of fresh air. You know, places like London, you know, with Sadiq Khan's kind of, you know,
well, he's scared.
laissez-faire.
I mean, he's scared. He said he's scared.
You have to have difficult conversations. You have to be tough. You have to be so tough on it. It is genuinely scary, and it does link to the debate that we had. You know, it's, you know, the two people who were stabbed in Leicester Square.
Terrible.
They were women. You know, so that all these, you know, so you hear Yvette Cooper talking tough on language. Okay, fine, but actually, should we not be absolutely doing everything we can to get, you know, knives out of people's hands? Because there is a feeling, and wrongly or rightly, and I know the media have a role, and these things get slightly, but there will be a feeling in certain communities of slightly like lawlessness in this sense. You know, you just see it. You see videos of people just wandering around the streets with these zombie knives.
Well, I mean, Nottingham Carnival, they were running through the streets with the knives as if it was just like nothing. No, we're just it's like, what?
Yeah.
James?
Yeah, it's really good that these weapons, which are extremely dangerous, are being banned, and it will be illegal to sell them and to buy them. I don't think it sounds sensible to buy them off people. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a whole wealth of evidence that shows that actually this is a really good thing and it's been tried in other countries and it works, but on the face of it, it seems completely unnecessary. It's like, you have this offensive weapon that we think is an offensive weapon. We don't think they should be sold because their only use is causing suffering or fear, or, you know, you don't necessarily have to use the thing, you could just frighten someone with it, but it's not a good thing. And so, you know, people should get rid of them and pay the cost of having bought one in the first place. Of course, if there's some evidence which suggests it's actually, for reasons that we can't understand, a really good thing, then OK, I would listen to that. In terms of the broader issues with youth crime and knife crime, I think we should be looking at, yes, the tough things like banning these knives and making sure that they're not in people's hands, or they're harder to get into people's hands. And then also looking at other things which we've got rid of, basically, over the last 14 years, like neighbourhood policing, like having a regular police officer that knows the area, that people in that area knows them, that the criminal justice system isn't so, you know, stark black and white, that there is someone who can put a hand on someone's shoulder and say, you know, watch out, we know that you're starting to misbehave, speak to family, speak to community. Also, all those things, you know, boxing clubs, kids' youth centres, which have all been cut back. And if we're going to talk about the tough stuff, we also need to talk about the soft stuff that goes with it, because otherwise you've just got more people who are potentially going to either be killed or kill someone, or seriously injure themselves.
Because you're actually doing them a favour by telling them, hand it back and we won't be in trouble up till the 24th of September.
Yeah.
After that, you will be in trouble for possessing it. That is the deal. There's no extra bonus for bringing it back on time before.
It's the wrong messaging, and when, you know, you accompany that with, you know, a lot of people would deem, you know, quite soft policing on stuff like this, on knife crime, which is why we see the instances that we do see. It's just another kind of, it's another additional point where people just look at it and go, we're not actually, as a country, we're not actually taking this particularly seriously.
I don't think they are at all. They're not seeing... It's almost like knives are not that bad. These knives are very bad. They are scary to look at. They're like the length of your arm. Why? It's like a pirate's knife.
And banning them does work. I mean, one thing we're very lucky about in Britain is that we have very low levels of gun crime, because guns have basically never been...
Because we have knives.
Well, no. The reason why there's knife crime is because there isn't gun crime.
Yeah, that's right.
And we don't have large levels of gun crime because there aren't lots of guns around. It's very hard to get hold of a gun. It's illegal, and so on and so forth. If you do the same thing with these really horrific types of knives, it should reduce the amount.
I would do that for knives and crossbows. There's no...
The crossbow as well, yeah. Those case a couple of weeks ago.
That's horrendous. You'd absolutely need some form of licence to own such a thing, if a crossbow, because I know that there are some people use them for performative reasons, and I know a woman who stands on her hands and she can do things with a crossbow, and I don't know why.
She can get a special licence for standing on her head and shooting the crossbow with her feet or whatever.
But there should be licence for something like that if there is some sort of reason, but there's no reason to possess a zombie knife.